Neil has over 25 years experience in the IT sector, working with a range of businesses covering SMEs through to large corporates. Across this time, Neil has worked with several small and large IT businesses and with many technologies in the manufacturing and industrial space to build solutions for many business needs, including real-time data collection, information management and analysis. Neil has a strong interest in emerging technologies, particularly with their application to small and medium-sized businesses and the way these technologies can help this group to start to reap the same benefits that large corporates have had for several years. Neil has worked for the last 6 years with the Australian Government's Entrepreneurs Program as a digital solutions advisor, advising program clients how to select and implement digital solutions to their specific requirements. I welcome Neil to the stage.
All right, thanks, Alicia. In my role, I deal with a lot of SMEs who most typically have got low-end kind of digital systems and that sort of thing. I was asked to actually have a chat here about the options for people in that kind of environment and what's important and what's not. Industry 4 at the moment, as it stands right now, it's doing some pretty good things already. The big guys obviously taken up a lot more fiercely than the SMEs. What we're seeing is the automation vendors are tending to package up things which suit the automation, their own equipment in the place. So Bosch, Siemens, Honeywell, and those kind of guys. There's also a bunch of smaller vendors like Leap, Dematec, and a couple of those that are, and even the Sutton Tools factory in a box that we just saw, that are tending to push into the environment as well. Some of these are inexpensive and offer a pretty compelling ROI, and they're quite good. So Industry 4, as it is at the moment, is already doing some pretty good stuff. But really what we're seeing is probably the start of a journey rather than a destination in itself. Over time, you'll see this become more intricately connected, sort of start connecting suppliers and customers to internal systems as well as shop floor type stuff. What will drive that in a big part is things like artificial intelligence and machine learning. As these move into the mainstream, and the big players like Google, Microsoft, Amazon are all working on boxed up machine learning and AI engines that will take information in and be able to give you results out. These, however, need a really large amount of data to actually get any accuracy out of them. So AI and ML in itself needs to be fed. Historically, in the early iterations of AI, engineers in the back created data sets, fed them in, and then got the expected results, which is not unusual, of course, if you're creating the data set yourself. Why that's important is that anything you implement today, you really should be thinking around what the future may hold for that. Are you going to end up with a system that's good for 3 to 5 years, but after that there's something unforeseen that means it's kind of useless in the new world? As well as operational and machine information, these are going to take your business information and other external information to actually give you better insights, things like better forecasting, better planning, and equally, sorry, I've lost my place a little bit. These will all be fed from open data sources converged with your factory data as well. So you're going to try and converge all this together. That means your little system that you might put in today, you need to be thinking about how open that is or otherwise. Likewise, augmented reality can also take sensor data from your IoT or your Industry 4 setups and actually start using that to do predictive maintenance, that sort of thing. As I've said, AI and ML really require a bunch of data, and this is where there's a perfect marriage between Internet of Things, or Industrial Internet of Things, and machine learning. IoT can generate massive amounts of data, which is exactly what AI and ML need. Business systems are a little harder to deal with. Business systems will also benefit from AI and machine learning, but finding a data set, particularly as an SME, to actually let a machine learning system learn can be quite problematic, particularly if you're coming from a low base of perhaps a small ERP or just an accounting system. And again, blending that IoT data and information with AI can possibly help you to create more accurate forecasts given external factors. The old story of the ice cream factory and the heat wave and production needing to increase. And I guess there's a question I pose there that the logical extent of this is will there be a day when there is a data set market? So somebody has a data set of trillions of rows that you can actually use from your kindred industry to feed your own machine learning stuff. Augmented reality is in the same boat. It's already offering the ability, if you speak to the Leap guys and that sort of stuff, there's a couple of presentations around here on AR. AR is going to give you the benefit of easier maintenance, predictive failures, how to assemble and disassemble things. But they rely on a range of information from either what we call a digital twin, which is really nothing more than an electronic record set of what that thing looks like, through to maintenance data, sensor data, is the thing running hot, what range it should be in, and that sort of thing. Again, it's an ideal marriage for IoT. As well as that, the addition of business information and environmental stuff can also help with predictive analytics. So if you're passing in information about what the weather's going to be next week, or you start to get these likely patterns and you can actually start seeing what may happen. Why is this important to you? So you, as potentially SME owners or business people, the common thread is that they will all become more data intensive. Everything in your business will start to use data as a core part of your business. So don't think about this as this is something that runs the factory floor over here. That's what it does, it's isolated. In the future, you're going to see less and less isolation and more cross-system sharing. And why is this important? The systems you may look at today, and a factory in a box, built on open standards, the ability to access the data is key. So it's all about, can you get at your data and the questions to ask before you actually commit to a path here. As the last comment was, what about the standards? The standards to date with IoT are particularly around communication with edge devices, aggregation of information from those edge devices. In the business world, there's not such standards happening. So once you get the information up to a data source, the standards are kind of stopping there at the moment. There's certainly transportation standards such as web services and REST and that sort of stuff, but what that data looks like and how you can consume it changes. So when you're looking at these systems, the vendor-based systems offer a turnkey solution typically that will collect your data, it will use a black box on site, your data from your sensors goes to the black box pushes up to the cloud, and from there you typically access it. Sometimes you can access it from the black box, but typically we'll leave it at the cloud level. This can be problematic depending on the access level of the cloud information. If you have open standards up there, such as web services, APIs and everything else, you're probably good to go. But what can happen is that there's a hidden cost involved in those things. There's an extra cost to actually get access to the data, for instance. If you use their display tools or dashboarding or anything like that, fine. But as soon as you don't, there may be an extra cost involved. And I guess what I'm about is making sure these questions are asked up front rather than finding them out later. Equally, you need to understand whether you can take that information and merge it together with external information such as weather information, road networks, and your business information like the orders in, orders out, that sort of thing. Data is the new currency. It's a big statement, but there's actually proof out there that data is becoming more and more valuable. The data and AI needs data to drive better returns for business. So where's that data going to come from? Well, most of you actually own some of it. The question is, where is it? What can you do with it and everything else? I was at a event up in Mareeba at the back end of Cairns last year. A farm these days at the back of Mareeba is worth, say, $3 million. I was told by the local agent, if you've got that farm with 10 years worth of weather, crop, yield and fertiliser information, you'll get a 10% better deal on that farm than the similar farm without the data. So at the moment, that's valued at $300,000 for one farm. How does this actually push down into matching? It's difficult to see where this fits longer term. Suffice to say that there will be a value to it and it will be valuable to your business. Equally, again, adding other time-based information into this type of data set can allow you to extrapolate patterns, see what happened when the weather went hot, when the weather went cold, geopolitical information, what happened when the, bipartisan, when the ruling party changed at a recent election, for instance, what happened after that, so that you could actually start looking at. And disaster events. There is actually a feed of information on disaster events around the world, which you can take and actually feed in to your systems. So, how do you give yourself the best chance of success then? You're an SME, you're busy making stuff all day, you've got the weekend to look at bits and pieces, you find some really cool tech, and you think that's a great idea. You need to really step back and actually decide why you're doing this. Where's the business case? Where's ROI? Tech's cool, and working out that spindle's only running 50% of the time has its own benefits, but is there really an actual business case to do this? So consider what your future needs are going to be. Are you part of a global supply chain company who one day is going to make you go all in for IIoT so that you can actually get two-way communication with customers? Or are you in a boat where you don't really need the all-in kind of IoT? It's more of an operational, not a strategic thing. The big one that I wanted to get through to everyone today was make sure you know who owns the data that you have collected. So if you've been busy producing for the last 12 hours, 13 hours, you'll have a massive data cloud of information. It's gone through your back box. It's sitting up on the cloud. If you decide to access that or change it or move it somewhere or extract it or whatever, sometimes that can be difficult. It can be additional cost. It may not even be possible. Sometimes it's a spreadsheet export and that sort of thing. These are the things that you should look at when you're considering a smaller system or a boxed up system or anything. There's the unfettered access to your information is really going to be key in the future. There will be situations where, of course, you don't own that data, and this is the whole issue around data sovereignty is a minefield. You may find that because that data is sitting in a server somewhere else, you actually have no right to it as such. You can use it, you can read it, but you've given up ownership of it. And these are questions that you actually need to think about and look at. You also, again, if you're an SME, you're manufacturing something, this is not your cup of tea. Don't be too scared to ask for help, either from commercial sources or government programs, that sort of thing. So I guess what I'm not saying is don't use a turnkey solution. What I'm saying is make sure you understand where that sits and what it's going to cost you in the long term. They offer a really quick, simple and painless way of implementing an IoT solution here, now, today, tomorrow. Generally, if they're from a vendor, they'll work perfectly with the vendor's machinery. It's a very low barrier to entry. Again, they typically use a black box and some sensors and then disseminate the information to the cloud system. That's where you need to understand what you own and how you get access to it. Sometimes it's available freely as part of your subscription, sometimes it isn't. So before buying, check that there is what we call an API, an application programming interface, which may be a web service or a REST web service. It may be a spreadsheet, but just make sure that that's included, or if not, what is the cost of that? Is it an additional annual cost? Is it an additional single one-off cost? If there is a charge, does it have limits? And this is literally the minefield we walk, is, can you make 5,000 calls to that a minute? Can you make 20 calls per minute? Is there a limit on a day? And what front-end systems can you currently support? So there's plenty of what we call KPI and dashboarding solutions, Microsoft Power BI, ClickView, ThingsBoard, ThingWorks, all of those things. But they're not necessarily supported by all of these things. Because of this standards issue where we don't actually have an information transfer standard, one thing that's supported by a manufacturer with, say, ClickView may not support Power BI. And again, these are questions that you need to actually be thinking about. Just on that, what options are there? Look, apart from specific things like ThingsBoard and ThingWorks tend to be IoT specific packages. ThingsBoard is open source, it's free, but someone needs to actually work out how to actually configure it, how you're going to collect data, where it's going to sit, what you're going to interface to. ClickView is another popular dashboarding solution. Like Power BI from Microsoft, it has a free version. The ClickView free version, there is a gotcha in that it can only be, it's limited to one PC. The dashboard can't be moved from that PC in the free version. You've got to go up to the paid versions. And Power BI from Microsoft is also another option with it, which offers a free version, doesn't have limitations along the ClickView line, but it does have volume and quantity limitations. So these typically use an API, an application programming interface, to get at your data. So this is where it's important that when you've got your black box and your data in the cloud, that there's access to that and it's open and unfettered. You're going to use these, and you'll see plenty of them around the traps to actually create your dashboards. And you may need help with that too. You may need a Power BI partner or a ClickView partner or Leap or whoever to actually help. These will actually, they're going to give you your alerts and your graphs and your uptimes and everything else that you're looking for from your IoT devices, for your sensors. Often these are actually included by the vendor in your subscription, so you pay it, you get it. And this is what's the great thing about a canned-up offering. As long as you're happy with what they're offering, it's good, it's easy, it's quick. It's usually not too expensive. Typically, with most of them, in fact, all of them listed there, you can add external data sources. Again, as long as you've got an API data set, so you can start to actually experiment with what do you do with weather data, what do you do with disaster information, what do you do with road data. Electricity spot prices, there's an interesting little solution. I'm actually from Adelaide. There's an interesting little solution running out of Adelaide. One of the water boards out there uses a pump to fill a big tank up the hill. It's not mission critical. It doesn't have to run all the time. So they've actually linked it into the electricity spot price to say we're only going to run it when the spot prices are low. If the spot price rises suddenly, we'll actually cut the pump off because it's not necessary. So I don't have a number, but it's already saving a hell of a lot of money for them. Likewise, your operational or your business management software solutions should also have an API set. So you can get information from there about stock control, sales orders, production control, and everything else, which you can then blend with your sensor data to actually start getting trends. And of course, there's the larger vendor solutions, Bosch IoT Suite, GE Predicts, and that sort of thing. So IIoT, or Industry 4, is touted as being about the cyber-physical world, how to actually manage physical assets through the use of cyber resources. But it also has deeper application across your business. IoT is kind of blurring the lines. Anybody who's worked in large manufacturing, there's typically the engineering department, which has their own bits and pieces, use their own Wi-Fi network, their own networks, their own SCADA networks. Then there's the business IT department who operates the ERP system and has their own networks. IoT works best when it's across both of these. Now, there's a little bit of not an argument to be had, a discussion to be had, I guess, as to who owns what and where it sits and everything else. Because IoT is far and away much more use and provides much more value to your business when it actually comes across your operational and your business areas. Thinking about what you've got there, an ERP or an MRP, you might have a manufacturing execution system where you're recording jobs finished and timesheets and that sort of stuff. Can you feed IoT data into that to actually make that automated? tracking times on the floor, same thing. Can you feed back production information from the sensors into your ERP system to say we know when that job finished and it's ready to ship and that sort of stuff? These only become possible with an MRP or an ERP system that also has this API set we're talking about, so you can start hooking things together. What do I need to know? And I guess if you just bear with me a minute. The blue italicised statement is what I really wanted people to take away from this today. If I sign up for this platform or product today, will I be able to get clear, unfettered access to my data in the future through an API, and will it cost anything else? Without that, you're probably building a solution it's great for experimentation, it's great for today, but it's probably got a very limited life. If you're happy with that, that's fine. But if you're looking at it as a core component of your business, start thinking about it as such. So think holistically. It should always be considered as much part of the business as what your business systems are. There are things to consider that may impact what you do now with one of these projects. So you may decide, I want to be here in 5 years' time. Does it fit? And you just need to know what to ask. That's what I guess I'm trying to get across today is ask these questions, understand them. You don't have to understand how it works or message queues or web services or anything else. You've just got to know that you can, dear vendor, can I get access to my data? How do I get that? And what does it cost? So, again, if you're busy running your business and everything else, look for help. There's plenty of people around these days that can help. There's more and more by the day. A couple down there, Leap, who's over the back here somewhere, Newcon, Dematech in Adelaide. These have all done here and now Internet of Things projects that work. Alternatively, look for an internal resource that you can grow into a role with Industry 4. So maybe a recent grad, maybe someone from the shop floor who's particularly cluey about computers and that sort of stuff. We're yet to be producing these people directly out of uni, so there's always a bit of a learning curve here, as the whole modern world is sort of surrounded by. That's really all I've got to say. I was just going to sort of go through the rest of it. Industry 4 is already here. It's happening. There's plenty of people doing lots of bits and pieces. Artificial intelligence, machine learning and augmented reality are also here now, but these things are going to have a voracious appetite for data, and IoT can give you that. If you're considering a platform, make sure you're able to get the right result you want, the right result for you, and that may mean getting access to data and that sort of thing. Some systems may make it more difficult to integrate to other systems and apps. You've got to try and sort of cut that off before you actually sign on the dotted line, which means before you buy, understand your options for access to other systems, the costs, is there an API, what additional costs are there. Then you just need to know what to ask, not the technical nitty-gritty. So I guess think broadly about your business, think what you want to do, and then ask business questions rather than technical questions there. And again, look for third-party help. And that's about all I've got for you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Neil.
Thanks,
that was very insightful. The takeaway for me was really about how essential software is in terms of efficiently managing the hardware, and that software is a really key investment decision for you guys to be considering and making. So, it's complex in terms of there's so much data that can be gathered, and what do you actually do with that data, and how do you use that to drive efficiency and competitiveness. So Neil, thank you very much for presenting today.